MRA challenged on revenue target as the Malawi Economic Justice Network fears that budget alignment not in line with the long-term development plan. Hello and welcome. This is Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that make headlines in the country. And my name is William Kumwembe. Hello and welcome. My name is William Kumwembe, and in our main story in the program today, it's been about 2 weeks since Finance Minister Sosthene Gwengwe presented to Parliament the 2.84 trillion kwacha national budget. Of the amount, 1.6 trillion kwacha is going to be resources generated from the domestic market through revenues and other means by the Malawi Revenue Authority. One question that has been out there is whether the MRA has capacity to generate this amount of resources. On Tuesday, Finance Minister Sosthene Gwengwe visited the MRA's Msongo House to understand the plans behind the 1.6 trillion kwacha generation of domestic resources. And our journalist Chimwemwe Mangazo was there, has since filed this report.
Gwengwe expressed satisfaction with the digitization processes of the authority's operations being undertaken, saying it will enhance compliance among taxpayers as they will be able to access the system from anywhere using the internet.
My impression, first and foremost, is that the drive that the Malawi Revenue Authority has taken in automation is the way to go, because here at Msongo House, it's more or less like a centralized place, and would want tax collection to be devolved as much as possible. And there is no quicker devolution of tax collection other than automating the whole system, so that somewhere at Tete in Dedza or somewhere in Tariri would be able, at the comfort of his device, file and pay his or her taxes. And I think the digitization process at MRA will be encouraged, and I'm rallying on all the taxpayers in this country to patronize and make use of these automated ways of making payments, including the Msongo online. I'm assured, and the team is fired up, that they're going to enhance their authority taxpayer relations, so that people should see paying tax not as a taxing activity, but as something that builds the nation, as their little contribution back to the people, so that people can have medicines in the hospitals, so that people can have better roads. So people should really be looking at paying taxes as that patriotic act that builds their own nation.
MRA board chairperson Visenge Kumwenda says the authority has the capability to reach the target if every West taxpayer fulfills their obligation.
A tough job and a big challenge, and but we will do our best to collect as much as we can. Yes, in the short term we may have difficulties, but in the long term we know we'll achieve our objectives and our targets. The economy as a whole, and it's not just in Malawi, it's world over, is facing a lot of challenges, and actually each day you find new developments happening that are making the economy to suffer even more. But within that context, we are still expected to deliver, because the government still has to function. The government has to provide social services, education, health, roads, and so on and so forth. So we have to deliver. And one aspect of it is that even in the current situation, if we can achieve the broadening of the tax base, whereby everyone contributes into paying taxes, that alone is enough for us to achieve, to achieve our targets, even in the current environment. For example, we've rolled out the block management system, where we are taking tax services to the people. And this we've done in Blantyre, here in Limbe, in Lilongwe, we've done the same, and we'll be doing the same in the other cities, in the other centers. With block management system, taxpayers will have easy access to our services. You know, because many taxpayers, there are a lot of taxpayers out there that are failing to pay tax. Not that they don't want to pay, but they don't know how to do it, for example.
The minister was also briefed that revenue collection in the current year has grown by over 20% from a 10% growth registered in the 2020-2021 financial year.
Now, one of the country's economic think tanks, the Malawi Economic Justice Network, MEGIN, says the budget, which was presented about 2 weeks ago by Finance Minister Sosthene Gwengwe in Parliament, seemed to not tally with some aspirations in the long-term 10-year development plan, which is part of the Malawi 2063. Malawi 2063 is a blueprint that wants to see Malawi moving from the current state to a state where it becomes an upper middle income economy. Now, the question remains to say, what does Malawi need to do to ensure that it hits the target? This is a question our journalist Matthews Kasanda from Lilongwe posed to Martin Mtumbuka, who is chairperson of the Malawi Economic Justice Network, MEGIN.
The MPs represent their fellow citizens. Their job is to speak on behalf of their fellow citizens, the ones whom they represent. So when they look at that budget, they should think about the people who sent them to the parliament, whether this budget addresses the needs of the people they represent. These people whom they represent are across the country. If all of them can agree that this budget answers the needs and aspirations of our local people, it means it's a good budget, because it comes from a very different arm of the government. So without that, there will be no connection between the budget and the aspirations of the people. So that's why I was stressing that they really need to remember who they are, that they are representative of the local people. And they should make sure that that budget addresses the needs and aspirations of the people they represent. If they are satisfied, then they will have passed a budget that really answers the needs of the most needed people in the country. I think the whole purpose of this meeting was really exactly that. Probably one would say that these misalignments can always happen, but one of the reasons why we organized this meeting was really to discover those kind of things and then engage, discuss, and the executive, the minister, especially the Minister of Finance, I think they will provide answers. If not, they will change the figures. But it was for this purpose that we had, that was one of the purposes of having this kind of discussion. So I wouldn't be seeing any bad will. This could happen for many other reasons, but this is precisely why we brought them here. My hope is that when these observations are brought to the Ministry of Finance, they will rectify or they will explain, and so that the misalignment is minimized or eliminated. I think it is common knowledge to all Malawians that we are trying to carry water in leaking buckets as far as public resources, that corruption is very serious in this country. And there's no point in talking about how much we are going to spend unless we also stop this bucket in which we have put our resources from leaking. It's just obvious. So we need, you cannot talk about the budget without talking about fighting corruption, because you'll put the money there, but the money will disappear. So you have to put it hand in hand, the rule of law, fighting corruption, then coming up with a proper budget, so that the idea is to protect this public purse from abuse.
Meanwhile, the Budget and Finance Committee of Parliament says it will advocate allocation of resources towards national economic development in as far as the budget consultations and discussion is concerned. Gladys Ganda is its chairperson, and she spoke with Matthews Kasanda.
Today we had a meeting with the MEGIN to hear from them what findings they've come up with after analyzing the 2022-23 budget. And one of the findings that they have brought to our attention is that there are some projects that are indeed missing in the budget itself. That is, there's some misalignment between the Malawi implementation plan vis-a-vis the budget framework itself. So what that means is that a project is appearing in the Malawi implementation plan that is Malawi 2063, but we've come up with a 10-year document, but it hasn't been budgeted for. So it means it's a document that we are just talking about, but there's no funding, adequate funding that is put aside for that document. Therefore, we've had Imagine, we're going to take that issue with the Minister of Finance. We know that resources are always limited, but probably government may have other plans. Probably they may wish to start those big projects next year. So we're going to hear from the minister when we respond to the budget, because the Budget and Finance Committee on Monday will respond to the budget itself, the budget statement that was presented by the Minister of Finance. But besides the misalignment of the two documents, the budget vis-a-vis the Malawi implementation plan, there's also one key issue that Imagine brought up, that is to say there is need for devolution of capital budget, development budget. We have devolved so many activities in the councils, powers and functions, and also some funding has been given to those councils. But what is lacking is for us to devolve our development budget. Because for any policy, or for someone to be measured that they're doing well in terms of policies, in terms of looking after its people, a budget has to be proper. So if we want to make sure that the budget is indeed proper, one of the key issues that we need to consider in this budget is to make sure that whatever budget that we do, it translates or it goes down or it trickles down to the poor masses in the villages. And one key area that ensures that there is development happening in the country is a development budget. Therefore, we're going to make sure that the development budget also trickles down to the councils, although we know that there are some challenges that are there in terms of capacity. Therefore, we're going to call upon government to make sure that we capacitate our council or officials to make sure that they are in a position to handle lots of money in terms of capital budgets. With regard to the analysis that they've come up with on the debt itself, the first issue that was discussed is to do with debt restructuring. That's a proposal that the Honourable Minister already mentioned about it. He said that there's need for us to restructure the debt in the sense that there's need probably to borrow cheaper and replace it with debt that is expensive. That's number one. Or also probably to extend the debt repayment period so that we should be repaying in small amounts, but also coming up with a debt retirement fund that has been talked about for so many years. And moving forward, and hearing from the Honourable Minister himself, when we had a meeting with him, he's very optimistic that the debt retirement fund this year will be fruitful. They will come to the table, and then we'll be able to discuss and agree on how best we should retire that fund. But also, what is also important is to make sure that we reduce our appetite for borrowing. We must be borrowing for development and not for consumption, because sometimes most of the borrowing that is happening is for consumption and not development. So there's also need to focus on development, borrowing as opposed to consumption borrowing.
Remember, this is Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. My name is William Kumwembe. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. And moving on with the program, illegal electricity connections remain order of the day in the country, and the Electricity Supply Corporation of Malawi, ESCOM, has since bemoaned the malpractice, saying the company is losing billions of kwacha each year due to illegal connections. We have a report in which our journalist, Gary Samadi, chronicles some of the challenges ESCOM is facing from a point where it disconnected one of the houses in rural areas in Blantyre, which was illegally connected.
In Chileka, Blantyre, resides a man who is suspected to have connected electricity illegally twice within 3 years. On 27 February 2022, after a tip from some members in the community, ESCOM officials disconnected the line, but they were reportedly assaulted by the man in question. However, according to the corporation's officials, ESCOM was tipped again that the man reconnected the power line. Subsequently, on Tuesday, ESCOM retaliated. ESCOM Public Relations Officer Peter Kanjere says the corporation has lost about 3 million kwacha in the course. Figures given show that between 2019 and 2020, the utility company lost about 1 billion kwacha to illegal connection and vandalism. Kanje, beyond the malpractice.
On Sunday, the 27th of February, we were tipped that there were some people who were involved in acts of illegal connections in this area. And when we came, we established that indeed there was a person by the name of Patricia Kachingwe and Kent Nachinga who were involved in illegal connections. We disconnected the two houses for Patricia Kachingwe, but in the course of trying to disconnect the house of Kate Nachinga, he became violent and damaged our vehicle and also tried to assault our members of staff. Having disconnected these houses, again we were tipped that Nachinga had reconnected the electricity at his house. That is why we've come again here to disconnect. Unfortunately, he has fled. We've lost quite a lot because we think these people have been involved in illegal connection for roughly 3 years, and we've lost over a combined total of 3 million, which is a lot of revenue on our part just to be lost like that. We must admit that issues of vandalism, illegal connection are rampant in the country, and it's very unfortunate because it does deprive Eskom income, but also undermines our service delivery. I do not have the latest figures yet, but from our previous statistics, like for the financial year 2019 to 2020 up to June, it was estimated roughly that Eskom had lost over 1 billion due to issues of vandalism and illegal connections such as the one we have witnessed here. We would like to urge members of the public to play their part in ensuring that assets for Eskom are protected, because where someone is involved in an illegal connection, not only does it pose a threat to their life, it endangers their life, but also the lives of others. But also, as I've said, issues of illegal connections deprives Eskom of the much needed revenue. Where we are deprived of the much needed revenue, it means our service delivery is undermined. So we urge members of the public to play their part, to report to the police where they are seeing people who are suspicious involved in electricity, because our personnel uses branded vehicles and also they have identity cards. So all of us have a role to play to ensure that issues of vandalism and indeed illegal connections should not be rampant as the case now.
However, the alleged perpetrator is yet to face the law as he is at large. According to community policing coordinator for the area, a manhunt has been set for the alleged perpetrator.
We are going to involve our friends from the CID to look for him, and if we found to be arrested for the offences committed, it is good. And we are working with, hand in hand with other stakeholders like Eskom, board and other institutions to end up this malpractice.
On to other business news, one of the country's insurance firms, Nico Group, has launched what it calls Innovation Hub, where clients can access various services and products digitally. Vizenke Kumwenda is Chief Executive Officer of Nico Group and explains the rationale behind the rolling of the hub.
This Innovation Hub is very important to the Nico Group, especially now where, as you are aware, we faced challenges following the COVID-19 pandemic, where interacting with our clients, interacting among ourselves was a big issue. So that enhanced the urgency for us to speed up or to intensify the investment in technology so that we are able to deliver our services to our customers digitally, where there is minimal interaction with our clients, but also not just delivering our services to the clients digitally, but even among ourselves, our employees, their processes and procedures, all of them going digital. Now, for that to happen, we realized that we needed capacity for digitizing, processes, products, and so on. So now this hub is actually working, and already we are offering, for example, services digitally that weren't able to do so before. For example, NBS Bank can now, a client of NBS Bank can actually apply for a loan using their phone. Within an hour, they make that application, and within that hour, if the loan is accepted, is granted, money is credited in their account, or if indeed maybe the loan is not approved, then they get they get a response to say your application has not been successful, but in the meantime, get in touch with our customer service.
That interview also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that do make headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Thanks for watching, and always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Goodbye for now.